Hi there, welcome back. Welcome back to the next video in the Grundig Satellit 3400 series. We are nearly there. I've said this before. This time I wanted to sort out the drum tuning, the alignment, the RF alignment of the drum tuning bands. And I wasn't quite sure just how I'd get on, but it actually is a lot simpler than I thought. A lot simpler. In fact, it's a lot simpler to do this than some of the other alignments. And that is because you've got, 7 stations, 7 bands that you need to adjust. There are a lot of adjustments for each band, but they're all in the same place. When you rotate the tuner, at the back you get access to all these things and they're all in the same place. The other thing is, they are in very good condition. They aren't, all gummed up. They aren't stuck up with the wax or any resin or anything like that. So it's a nice and clean access. The few little tricks that you have to be aware of, and they're not that clear in the service manual. I've arrived at the method by reading the service manual and also with a bit of help from my friends, as usual. Thank you, Stefan. Specifically about the order that you're supposed to do the alignments on. And so I hope that this video will help you to get you on the path to restoring, aligning, whatever you need to do to your Grundig Satellit 3400. Just a little note, this series is long. It's, I suppose I'd like to call it an educational series, a reference series. Believe it or not, I do want to do more of these. I really love this radio and I want to do more of these. They are becoming a little bit harder to get to. You can get them, they're getting more expensive. I know in some parts of the world they're very difficult to get to, but in Europe, go on eBay, there are a lot of them for sale. The prices are sometimes quite exorbitant, but if you wait around and you're patient, you can get one for a reasonable price. So I will be doing more of these, and believe it or not, this series will serve as a reference for me, because doing one now and maybe another one in 6 months' time, I will have forgotten a lot of stuff. So I'll probably go back and watch my video. By the way, when I watch my videos for reference, I put it at 1.5 times speed. And that way I don't put myself to sleep. That might help you when you watch my normal videos. Anyway, enough waffle. As usual, I'm going on too long. Let's get on with this. I want to get to the end of this and have all the bands RF aligned. And I'm not sure just how much will be left, but that'll probably be left over for one final video with testing and all that stuff. All right, stick around and enjoy. When we talk about aligning the circuits that are controlled by the drum tuner, it can be a little intimidating. I know that I was when I did the first one on the Satellite 2100, but as it happens, this is actually a lot simpler than it seems. A lot simpler and actually a lot easier. I'll explain. We've got all the bands here, shortwave 3 to shortwave 10, and you just rotate up as you go along, right? And it gives you different spans. Now, there are 2 aspects of this. One is if you've got it on the broad setting, which allows you to tune the bottom end. In other words, on shortwave 3 from about 5 megahertz to about 6.7 megahertz. And then within this shortwave 3, we see here the 49 meter band. Now that means that there is actually a commercial band, a band of frequencies that a lot of commercial stations use. And that is the main station or the main band or the main part of that band that you want to tune to. And they've been so kind as to give us this option, which takes you to the top. And as you can see here, this one starts at below 600, it ends at 6250. That means 6000 and 6250, which is there. 6 megahertz to about there, 6250. So you can then tune within that and you get all the stations a lot more accessible. Not a problem. We can align all that quite easily. And I've actually gone one step ahead, because I've actually done 3 and 4. So I've done these alignments. I wanted to sort of practice before I went into it, because I didn't want this to be another long-winded video. But it's actually quite simple what we're doing here. As we've seen here on the schematic, we've got 3 sections that are painted in sort of pinkish here. And the one on the left is the antenna section, because it receives the antenna signal. The one in the middle is the filter section. And the one on the bottom right is the oscillator. Now these are the interchangeable sections that drum tuner allows us to do. It's pretty neat. You basically switch in the parts of the circuit that are necessary for that particular set of frequencies or band of frequencies. and you align the respective points as you're required or instructed to do by the service manual. Now, the way we see it here, we've got the oscillator, which is LOK and COK. Then we've got the filter, which is CZK and LZK. And we've got the antenna section, which is LVK and CVK. So we've got two adjustments for each one of those sections. And then we've got one step further, which is actually the band adjustment. So when you select band, in other words, the 49 meter band, you then make that particular adjustment. And again, you've got three more. You've got the antenna section, the filter section, and the oscillator section. And it's also easy to identify this on the radio. This is the drawing, or this is the graphic that we need to really understand what we're doing here. And if we focus on the section that has to do with the drum tuner, in other words, the back of the drum tuner, this is what we see. And now it's pretty simple to understand what's going on here. Each one of the bands that we're seeing on the front of the radio is reflected in the accessible points at the back. In other words, when you align the back, you're aligning the frequencies that you can see on the display. And we've got here, this is divided into three sections. We've got the oscillator on the right, and you can see at the bottom it says LOK, COK, and bunt. You've got the filter section in the middle, and again you've got LZK, CZK, and bunt. And then you've got the antenna section on the left, which gives you LVK, CVK, and bunt. So as long as you do that in an order that makes sense, everything works out okay. And what is that order? Well, let me take this out and show you. First of all, we need to remove this plate. We've got shortwave 4 on the front, and we are going to remove this plate, which is directly facing backwards. And the way to do this is you just pull it. It's got two little clips. You do not use much force. It just sort of unclips and you pull it out, okay? Now, what you're aligning here has got nothing to do with this band at all right? And now you see these alignments or these adjustments. You've got a coil, an inductor, a trimmer capacitor, and the same here and the same here. And as long as you remember that this is oscillator, this is the filter, and this is the antenna, we're good, okay? Or we'll be good. The other thing to do is when you set the frequency they tell you to set, they will tell you to set a low frequency on the band, and to align that to the dial, you adjust the inductor. Remember, low frequency is inductor, high frequency is capacitor, okay? That is for the band itself, or rather the range itself. So they'll give us a frequency, we'll set it on the signal generator, we'll adjust, we'll set the dial to that particular frequency, and then we'll adjust this till we get a peak on there. In other words, we've straightened out where the dial is pointing, corresponding, or rather we've adjusted the oscillator to correspond to the frequency that the dial is pointing to, okay, minus the IF and all that jazz. All right. Then what I do is I don't do the others at this point. I go to the top end of the band, I set that frequency, and I adjust the condenser to give me the same thing. So I fix the oscillator points, I fix the alignment visually first, okay? And then at that point I come back to the bottom one, check that it's fine. If it's fine, I leave it. If it's not, I adjust it slightly. Go back to the top, do the same. And then I'll choose one of them. If I'm at the top, for example, then I'll do the alignment of the particular circuit that has to do with the particular adjustment on the filter and on the antenna that has to do with the top frequency. So if I'm at the top frequency, I will then adjust the filter to give me a maximum reading, and I'll adjust the antenna to give me a maximum reading. Then I'll go down to the bottom, which I've adjusted with that inductor, right? And then I will peak it again at that bottom frequency with the respective signal coming in from the signal generator. I will peak this inductor, and I will peak this inductor, thereby peaking the filter circuit at that part of the frequency band, and this side will be the antenna circuit at that part of the frequency band. Then when I'm happy with that, I've actually aligned that band, right? Then I move it up to the commercial band one. I put the switch up to the 49 meters, for example, whatever it is. And then there's another frequency that's given. You set that, and you've got three adjustments, which are these three, this one, and this one. And you peak all those at that particular frequency, and that's the only adjustment you make on that band selection, okay? And you do this for all of them. And I'm not going to do it for all of them. As I said to you, I've done two already because I wanted to practice. little bit of rehearsal for the video. But I'll do a couple and show you. It's not that tough, and it actually is very easy because these are pretty accessible. And I use this this screwdriver, which is ceramic. I use that on the trim caps. They're not actually sealed in place. They haven't been sealed with lacquer, so they actually move quite easily. They're pretty sensitive, but they move quite easily. And the inductors are actually quite neat because I've used this particular screwdriver, which is also ceramic, and the small one, and it fits perfectly in there. Again, nothing's been sealed with wax or anything like that. I'm not sure that this is the same with all the radios of this series, but this particular one, I haven't found one wax plug on any of these, which is a blessing, unless somebody starts messing around. Right, so let's get started. I'll show you the differences we have here. The signal generator gets connected to the base of the ferrite and of the rod antenna, which is this connector here, through a 20 picofarad capacitor, and that's the one we've got there. The ground is connected to chassis, so I think we're ready to go. Let's set this to shortwave 4. Signal generator set to 6.7 megahertz as instructed. Activate the output. I'll put the volume up a bit, and I'll tune to 6.7, see if it's there. Not quite. There it is. Up the volume. Now there's something that's important here. That is, if we look at the meter and we tune off, look what happens. It actually goes louder. And that is because the automatic gain control is having an effect on this. So if I take this off automatic gain control and put the manual control on here till I can hear it and see it, now when I tune off, it actually goes down. See that? Because what's happening is when this thing's on auto, the minute I take it off the signal, it then raises the gain and you hear that the background noise, the background hiss, louder than the actual signal, and we don't want that. So I've started using this as a little trick to make sure that it stays stable. So we're all set now, and we realize we're not quite on 6.7. So what I'll do is I'll set it to 6.7, which according to my angle is exactly there. And now we start adjusting, and this is where it gets a bit tricky because I've realized from the instructions, they tell you to put the plate on. They don't actually tell you. They tell you that because of this the sensitivity of the circuits, that it actually changes depending on whether you have the plate on or not. So I have to go in here, find the that's on. Perfect. I'll tune away. I'll set the signal generator to 8.3 megahertz. Tune to 8.3, which is the little blip on there. Which to me is spot on. It might not look that way from the angle the camera's at, but that is exactly at 8.3, so there's no adjustment necessary. I can actually now go and adjust the antenna circuit and the filter circuit for 8.3. So for 8.3, I've got to see it. It's that one there. Adjust it. It's on a peak. Perfect. Now I'll do the same for the antenna. That was the filter circuit. I'll do the same for the antenna circuit. We've peaked it. Perfect. Now I'll go down to the bottom and do the same. Adjust the signal generator to 6.7 and tune down to 6.7. We're there. Now I'll adjust that inductor on the filter circuit to peak the filter. And it's peaked. And we adjust the inductor on the antenna circuit. It seems to be a peak. And we've done it. Now we'll set that to the band. So what we're now looking at is the 41 meter band, the top one. And they tell us to set it to 7.2 megahertz. I'll do that on the signal generator. 7.2 megahertz. And I'll tune to 7.2, which is over there. There's also a blip on the green line. It's just slightly off. To be spot on, it'll be there. Now here I've got three capacitors, three trimmers to adjust. One is for the frequency, which is that one there. There we go. The other one is this last one here, or rather on that row in the middle. That's for the filter. That's done. And the last one is the antenna. Ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. We've aligned shortwave 4. Now, the greatest difficulty is really this working through these holes in the back, because otherwise it's very simple, as you can see. All right, one more done. I've actually done all the bands up to shortwave 9, and everything's gone perfectly normal, exactly the same as I did the other one, the one I showed you. And now we've hit a bit of a snag. Shortwave 9, K9, the two test points are 18.7 and 23 megahertz. Now 18.7 is no problem, it's down here, and the signal generator reaches there perfectly well. The problem now is 23 megahertz. Now my signal generator goes as high as 20 megahertz, right? I need 23. So what am I going to do? Well, I can't go any further here. So I'm going to use harmonics. And the way you do it is you want 23, so we'll set it to half of that, which is 11.5 megahertz. Everything else is the same. And if you tune the radio to 11.5, that's what you would get, right? But because this is not a perfect signal generator, or I hope it's not, actually I know it's not, I've done this before, we actually get harmonics on this. And the one we're interested in will be the strongest one, will be the second harmonic, which will be 23 megahertz. So if I set it to 11.5 and I now start tuning, I have a bit of a problem because there, in that area, there are a few of these guys, right? Which doesn't help, but it's not the signal that I want. That's not the frequency of my tone. So what I need to do is I need to increase the amplitude quite a lot. Let's see if we get anything now. Nope. The other problem I've got is I'm not sure where it is exactly, so I'm just going to keep putting this up a bit more. Oh, it would help if I did that. Ha! Idiot. Oh, there's our tone. That is our tone. Watch. Gone. And it's there. So now put the volume down. Now I can use that tone to adjust the 23 megahertz. And I'll do the same for the other frequencies that are above 20. Just look for a half of the frequency and we should be able to hear it. Okay. That was just a small interlude to show you what to do if your signal generator doesn't go as high as you need to. I've completed the alignment of all the bands and I'm going to show you a few. Here's 18.7 on shortwave 9. Now I'm looking at the little dash there, it's perfectly on top. I won't go to the top because I'll have to try the harmonics trick, and I don't want to feed too much of a strong signal into the front end for too long. Let's try another one. Okay, 8. 16 megahertz exactly. Notice that's saying 1602. I mean, that's 16 exactly. Let's try the one down. K7 is 13 megahertz. This one is like a quarter of a millimeter to the right. Good enough for me. K6 or shortwave 6 is 10.8 at the bottom. Spot on, absolutely spot on. K5, 8.3. Again, like a quarter of a millimeter to the right, good enough for me. K4 is 6.7. Again, that's sort of quarter millimeter to the right. And K3 is 5.2. This one is a bit more to the right. This is about a millimeter to the right. Not exactly sure why. This one drifts a bit. I think it's because it's a lower frequencies perhaps. I'm not sure. The point is, this thing has now been aligned. The entire drum mechanism has been aligned, or rather, the bands on the drum selector have been aligned. This guy is absolutely spot on. So there's no requirement to play around, open that up and try and calibrate it. It's perfectly calibrated. So I think it's playtime for me. I'm going to, I'll have to just really do a bit of a recap and see what else I need to do on this, because I've focused so much attention on this. It took a heck of a long time, especially because you always have to remove that back cover. So it does take a long time. And there are other things to align, the BFO, the actual meter here, to calibrate it or try to calibrate it. I'm not sure that I can, again, with the equipment I have or don't have. But that's the major step forward. And then there's a bit of cosmetic stuff to do on the radio. I still have to think about what to do with these switches. I might be able to get this one. I think I can get quite easily. This one, I'm not sure. It's not the same as that one. That's just a clip-on that goes on there. There is some cleaning to do. There's a bit to do. I need to think about it. And I'll probably then just post one final video in this marathon or videothon that we've had. I think we're on video 12 or 13 now. I can't even remember. As I said, this is getting a little bit tedious, but I do want it to serve as a reference for anybody wanting to do one of these. You perhaps can get a little intimidated by everything that I've done, but bear in mind, most of the radios you're going to find don't need all this. This was more demonstrative than anything else, so that it serves as a reference. You probably won't have half the stuff to do that I've done on here. I hope not. So I'm going to close off for now, and thank you all once again for your patience. Thanks for all the support. Thank you especially for all the comments. It's been great. I've got quite a lot of emails direct as well, asking questions. I've got no problem with that. Sometimes I might take a little longer to respond, but feel free. And other than that, I'm going to thank you for your company. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, share, like, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, do so on Patreon. Once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now and stay safe.